All right, as promised, we're joined by Mita Hosali, who's the Deputy Director of the News and Media Division, and she is here to unveil our new UN News, the face of UN News.
Thank you, Stefan. Thanks for the opportunity, and thank you, colleagues from the press corps. It's my pleasure to be here. I'll try not to take up too much of your time. You're all busy people. But I do want to just highlight a few of the new features of the UN News portal. I wouldn't call it just a website. It's really a gateway to access multimedia integrated news about the UN across 8 languages. So with the help of my little handy-dandy audiovisual aid here, I'll just go through a few of these slides. Again, not to take time, and of course I will be happy to answer any questions. So the point is that we bring together audio, video, text, photos, like most 21st century websites, and you will see that increasingly we have this kind of content. This is a navigational video that you will see on all of the websites, which I will not bore you by playing now, because you can take your time to play it, but it actually helps you navigate the site if you're having some difficulty finding elements. And the site, of course, looks like this. It looks different today because this is from a few days ago. It does have, as you can see on the right, it has video, it has occasionally podcasts, might have a feature story, it will have always audio content, UN radio bulletins, and so on. This just to show you that increasingly what we're hoping to provide are multimedia stories. This was around the Holocaust remembrance events, and it had a podcast there as well as audio and video of different kinds. You can always look for latest news by just pulling this up if you're not interested in trawling through all of the other content that's there. And you can also look for the latest audio content. As you can see, you can line up using a playlist different radio broadcasts, including the daily news. So that helps as well. Something that I understand from certainly what Stefan has said before, and some of you have said to us and our colleagues, is that you find these focus pages useful because it aggregates content with respect to specific hot button, flashpoint kind of issues. We don't have them on every topic the UN is dealing with, but we choose a few, and you can find that on the focus page site. One of the new features of the website, which I think is a first, certainly for the UN, is that you can subscribe to alerts in all 8 languages. This never existed in the past except in English, and in the early days it existed in French, but then we ran into a problem. So this is the page you go to, you subscribe, you can choose either to get a daily wrap or stories as they get posted, and if you are interested, you can also filter it by topic. So you might only be interested in human rights in Asia or peacekeeping in Africa, so you won't be bombarded by every story that gets put out. We'll also be doing a weekly wrap, which will be more of a curated kind of update every week. If you have any questions, you can always contact UN News. That's the button at the bottom there. And you can do so in all 8 languages. So if you're only interested in a particular language, you don't have to necessarily contact the English news team. This is what the instant alert story looks like. Every time a story comes out, you'll get a ping. This is what the daily wrap looks like. And of course, it's all multimedia. Also, just in case you were not aware of it, though we did announce it earlier, we do have all of this available on the most downloaded UN app, which is the UN News app. It's available for iOS and Android devices. It's also available in all 8 languages, and it is media rich. So you can watch the noon briefing, Stefan, and guests. You can watch Security Council meetings from wherever you are using that app, and everything is available in multiple languages. I don't believe there are news apps that have this kind of multilingual element too many places. In fact, I haven't yet found one. That's it from me. If you have questions, I'm happy to, of course, respond. And if you'd like to ask questions later, you can certainly write to me as well.
Edie?
A simple question, but a curious one. There are 6 official languages of the United Nations, and you're talking about 8 languages. What are the other 2?
So the other 2 are Portuguese and Kiswahili, which was always part of our news coverage. But as I said, this was an attempt to integrate content. So we have made sure that all of this is reflected on the new UN news site.
Good.
As far as the apps, are they live? Are they live feeds of the security?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Does it work better than the webcast, hopefully?
The webcast, you mean the live stream part of it? Is
Yeah,
that what
are
you're
you taking
asking?
it from the webcast, or is it something you're putting up
we're
yourself?
taking it, thus far we're taking it from webcast.
Okay, so there
fed
will
from
be
that.
problems then, okay.
Have you had problems with,
it comes out a lot, and just we get blank pictures sometimes.
Well, this is always, stuff that we will keep looking at and keep looking to improve. So.
And as far as the video content, is it downloadable for reviews, or is it just downloadable to view?
Yeah, no, it's some of the video content is downloadable for reuse, but not all of it. You are, of course, familiar with Unifeed, which is what is sent out to broadcasters. That's absolutely for reuse. Some of the other video content is also reusable. We do ask for attribution, etc., and all kinds of permissions just need to be respected.
It is primarily for professionals, or is this for everybody?
The video that you see on the website and on the app gives you 3 options. You can watch live stream, as I just mentioned. You can watch feature videos, and you can watch news-related videos. So some of the videos that you see in the news stories also are featured there. So part of it is for broadcast professionals and online use, but some of it is just for consumers. It's a mixed bag, I would say.
Matthew?
Sure. Thanks a lot. Matthew Lee, Inner City Press. I wanted to ask you kind of it looks great, but a different kind of a question. In terms of actually producing the content, do you feel that it's an independent or objective news source, or is there? And I'll give you just an example. There's a lot of coverage. If you were to search today the UN, you'll see a lot of coverage of the UNAIDS sexual harassment case, possible mishandling of it, possible forcing of staff to write letters of support to Mr. Luis Loures. Can you cover that? Is the news center? How is it decided? Where's the limits of what you can cover? If you can discuss that.
Without going, I would say, and I'm not just being jocular here. How much time do you have?
Quite a bit.
But basically, we obviously have an editorial process. We do cover a lot of content about crises that the UN is facing, but we also do have certain parameters within which we cover this. So if something is under investigation, we might cover it when it's first announced, such as by Stefan, but not necessarily while something is ongoing.
But I'll give you just one example. I became aware before the Secretary General's trip to the Central African Republic that in a town hall meeting, the head of DPI, Alison Smale, said the Secretary General is not known enough in the world, and this is going to be a litmus test of our coverage to present it in a positive light. And I just sort of wonder, how is this different than, let's say, the state media of some governments whose goal is to make the leader look good or to... Do you see what I'm saying? I guess I'm wanting to know, with all due respect for the people that work there, how do you square that, a news thing, with something saying pretty openly, we're trying to present our leader in a positive light, and how is this not a conflict from the same department that chooses for independent press who gets accredited, who gets workspace, who gets access? Is this a conflict of interest?
So what I would say, without again going into too much detail, is that we obviously are a news service for an intergovernmental organization. We're not an independent news service. However, we cover all kinds of issues, so it includes the issues that are not necessarily what the UN would like to be trumpeting, but we do cover them. We don't maybe cover them in the same way as they might be covered by external media, but we do cover a lot of issues. It's a wide swathe of issues.
Yep. A
couple of questions. What's what's the main target of the portal? Is it do you try to target like professionals or like the general audience around the world? And also, do you have any statistics on the traffic on the portal? I don't know if you have any geographic area statistics. I mean, like in Asia or Africa or here in the U.S. Other thing is that a couple of weeks ago, I think the Secretary General's special envoy for youth, she was here in a conference and she said one of her priorities is to make the UN closer to young people. So I guess one of the ways to do that is through multimedia and social media. Is this something on your priorities? And also I think the Secretary General told her that here at the UN, people do tend to speak an analog language versus a digital language that young people around the world talk this nowadays. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting questions. We, of course, don't have figures for the new portal because it's just been launched earlier this week, but we will be avidly watching and gathering these statistics. For the previous portal, we had actually multiple platforms, and you've put your finger on it. It was actually very difficult to, in any authoritative sense, pull together the metrics for all these different platforms. We did it, but it was very much of a challenge. But the former News Center portal, which was available in 6 languages, we had a very steady kind of traffic to it. I think if without kind of misspeaking, it was in English alone, it was over 10 million people. When it comes to who are our target audiences, clearly, our target audiences are yourselves, the journalists, but also member states, also people in civil society, and I would say, very frankly, it's the general public. Where do most of our stories get picked up? From the analytics that we have, a large percentage is still, again, because English does dominate, even though Spanish is very, very much up there, but a large percentage is in the United States. And then a second runner-up happens to be places like India, for example. But it's kind of patchy. When you look at different languages, you have a different picture. I'm only speaking of English at this point. Okay, you had one more question about getting closer to young people. Well, the whole point of having a multimedia portal is precisely to do that, is to create content that is interesting to young people. So I think you will see the balance of what we cover shifting, and we will have more content about beneficiaries, about stakeholders, as well as about younger people. And in many cases, we will be looking to actually give young people themselves a voice so that we're not just writing about them, but they are speaking for themselves.
Thank you. Just maybe a technical question about the app, which, if I'm not mistaken, you launched about 18 months or so ago and was working just fantastic until, for some reason, it stopped working like 2 months ago. I don't know for what reason. And right now, I'm trying to get the noon briefing, but it's not on there. It's you have, for example, General Assembly, Security Council Live, General Assembly, but not the noon briefing. I don't know for what reason. So I was wondering whether you changed the specs or there's some technical requirements you need to have to be able to follow it. Thank you.
Sure. We used to have something called the UN News Reader app, which was available in English on iOS devices, and that had a certain content assembled. And then last year, in November, we launched an upgraded version, which included all of the languages, and it included all these media-rich features, such as being able to live stream content, being able to watch videos, and so on. Actually, I was surprised you said a few weeks ago, because I noticed, and it's a source of some frustration, but we're working on it, that just this week when we launched the new portal, there are some glitches with images, the visuals showing up. So I don't mean to draw attention to what's wrong, but I just want to suggest that you might want to refresh and go back to, say, the App Store and just download it again. It's the same app. It's still called UN News. We didn't put a new one on. And if you just refresh it, you should be able to get most of the content. But again, I'm taking note of the points that you've made.
So sorry, you say it's called UN News.
UN News. It's just UN News. That's on the Apple, in the Apple Play Store.
Two questions. One, how much is it costing for all of this?
All what?
What you're launching now, the new, how much money did you have to come up with to launch this whole new effort?
So this was really a team effort. So there was a lot of in-house talent that worked on it, and then of course we do have a contract with an external hosting solution, but it all goes through the procurement process. So the most economical one is the one that's chosen, and that's the part that's external, but the rest is all internal.
Can we get a dollar sign on this?
I'll have to get it to Stefan. I don't know. Off the top
And
of
number
my
two,
head.
do you consider what you're doing a use of soft power?
I think it's a necessary part of what we do at the UN. I mean, we have a lot of followers. We have a lot of senior officials who come and speak to us because they see it as a way to get out their message, and they also do it and we put it out in 8 languages, and I think this is something quite remarkable. And it's refreshed every day.
Matthew, quick.
Sure. One is just, as journalists here, sometimes we see UN officials that do only speak with UN News or UN Radio, and I guess I just say, like, we'd probably like it better if you could encourage them to try to actually speak to people who might ask them different questions. But the thing I wanted to know is, what's the relationship between this news center and what's described to me as the social media unit under Nancy Grove? And there are some questions arose in here around Swahili radio positions or funding being shifted to social media. Is this related to the social media team? I mean, I guess it is. Is it part of it? And are you aware of the General Assembly resolution, budget resolution, that says that the posts for Kiswahili and Portuguese radio, the 2 posts for each, should be redeployed as they were originally allocated rather than seemingly put into the social media unit?
So we all work together. Nancy is a very esteemed team member. She works with us in the News and Media Division. Her teams work alongside the news teams. They're right there, cheek by jowl. And we're constantly sharing content, working together to create content. So that's to answer your question on the social media unit and the news teams. We all do work together. And in fact, we have many projects planned for the next part of this year to actually take that collaboration to the next level, because we really were waiting for this big day for this launch to happen. On General Assembly resolutions, I think Stefan has spoken to this before. Yes, I mean, we all know about resolutions that come and go, but yes, we're aware of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please feel free to email if you need any help with the website.
More questions? More questions?
Sorry to be
No, I'm glad you came down. It was good.
Thank you so much.